Hello, second grade. Welcome to day 2 of our collage robots. This might look like a pile of mess, but these are some of the supplies you might want to consider for today's project. We are finishing our robots. These 2 pieces of paper should look familiar because these were our blueprints. I chose my number 2 robot from last time we drew these. Make sure that you know which robot you want to create. I'm going to keep this off to the side because this is who I'm going to build out of paper today. Now, I have a whole bunch of different colored things. I've got this Girl Scout cookie box that I flattened. I have a magazine, and then I have some colored paper. I know that friends at home sometimes don't have colored paper, so that's up to you guys. If you have colored paper and you want to build your collage robots with us, you definitely can. If you're at home and you have no colored paper and you don't have any magazines or boxes to cut up to create these shapes, then you guys can just go onto a big white piece of paper and draw your robot nice and big for the final time. You would just use your pencil and a marker and you would draw your robot that you brainstormed really big, making decisions of what to keep and maybe what to add onto it. For us today, we really want to get our hands moving, cutting and gluing. So I'm going to have you guys pause the video in just a minute and assemble your supplies. You definitely need a white piece of paper. This is going to be our background. You definitely need your blueprints or those robots that we brainstormed last time. If you're making collages with us, make sure you've got colored paper, magazines, or any colorful objects that you can cut up close by, scissors, and any type of glue. Might be liquid, might be a glue stick, might be tape, whatever you have. You're also going to need some markers to add finishing details onto our robot when we're done building him. If you are just going to draw the robot, you can use any coloring supplies you'd like, but make sure you got that white piece of paper to put them all onto. Go ahead and pause this video, make sure you have all of your supplies before you resume and create together. All right, for my friends that are back and ready to create, our first step is to look at our robot and think of those geometric shapes that we talked about. The head that I made is a circle, I have a rectangle body, and ovals for my legs. Those 3 parts, the head, the body, and the feet, are the most important shapes you're going to cut out. They're going to be the biggest ones, and they're the ones you want to create with first. I'm going to go ahead. I like to first draw my shape close to the edge of my paper so that I know where to cut. And I do it on the edge of my paper so I don't have to cut right in the middle and ruin my whole paper. It's hard to see it, but I drew myself my circle for the head. I make it pretty big because I've got this whole piece of paper off to the side that I'm going to have to fill up. I use my scissors. I go nice and carefully and I cut out the shape I just drew. Once I've cut out my head, I'm not going to glue yet, I'm just going to build the robot. I'm also out of this paper going to create that body, that rectangle. And instead of drawing it, I know that if I cut a tall line up and a short line across, that I can make a rectangle. Snip. Just like that TV that he has in his stomach. My legs are going to be a little bit more difficult. For this, I think I'm going to make some yellow legs because I haven't done that yet. I see that I have a whole bunch of ovals. Now either I could cut out all those shapes or I could draw them. They kind of look like puffy stacks of pancakes. I don't know. And a feet at the end. Second grade, I know we haven't cut a lot this year, but this is when we're really going to put these hand muscles to the test. We really want to push our motor skills, or the way that we hold our scissors and actually cut. We want to put those to the test. We really want to exercise our hands. We haven't done too much of that this year. So I drew my legs, but I didn't draw them individually. I drew the whole entire legs so that I can go in, and remember, I'm really testing my scissors skills, and I want to go around all of those lumps and cut these legs out. All right, there's one leg. If you don't like the pencil mark on one side, you can flip it over and you will have the same shape, but with no pencil line. I'm gonna put that right by my robot body. All right, I gotta go back in. I gotta cut out the other leg. As I cut, I like to move my paper with my scissors, making sure my scissor line is always on the outside of my pencil line so I don't accidentally chop anything off. Snip. Once again, I'm going to flip it over so I don't have to see those pencil lines. I put it right over here. Now I've got those two legs, they almost look like giant boots. I have to think about other shapes. I see shoulder blades over here of my robot. That's another circle. For this, I'm going to show you how I would use a magazine. Make sure you have permission from your family that it's okay for you to cut out certain pages of the magazine first. And when you are ready, I'm going to choose this one because it's got kind of a nice texture over here. I open up my magazine. And what I like to do first is I'm going to cut out a big chunk because it's way easier to work with smaller pages than an entire book. Once I've cut out the piece that I want, then I can go in, and I'm not even going to draw a circle because I know how to cut a circle. And you guys do too. So I draw kind of a tiny circle. Once you've got that, I'm actually going to make sure I'm overlapping as well. I want those circles to go behind his shoulder. I gotta make another one. I'm gonna try to make it the same shape. Going behind the other shoulder. All right, so he's kind of coming together. Other things I have to think about are the buttons and the screen of his belly, his entire arms, eyes, nose, and a mouth. Right now I'm kind of jumping around, but I'm gonna make the face, making those ears. I made the mouth. And I'm not gluing just yet. I'm just kind of placing everything around him. I know he's got a little horn on the top, so I gotta make a triangle. I use the bottom of my paper as the bottom of the triangle. I make two snips going up. And I see this guy fell down, so I gotta go pick him up. I'm trying to use as many colors as possible. You can also make colored paper at home by grabbing white paper and using marker and crayon to color on top of it. Now I think I'm gonna jump on over to this Girl Scout cookie box. Cereal boxes or mac and cheese boxes are also great to use if you need some colorful material. Just to use your scissors to cut off some of the chunks. I'm gonna cut off this more purple spot on it. And I'm gonna make his eyes out of these. I'm gonna make them nice and big by holding onto that cardboard and spinning my scissors around. The nice thing about Girl Scout cookie boxes and cereal boxes is that the cardboard is nice and thin, so I can cut through it easier. Oh, I like how big his eyes are. I think they're really silly. All right, I'm gonna kind of jump on over to this green paper, and I really wanna focus on his neck and his arms. I know his neck is a rectangle. And even though I'm walking you guys through how I would do mine, I really want you to think of how you're going to do yours. How are you gonna be able to piece together all those little details? Are you gonna cut up a lot of rectangles? Are you going to decide on drawing it instead? Up to you. Now what I need to do before I draw anything on him is I need to make sure he is completely glued down. Let me clean my workspace off, put everything kind of to the side so you can see more of what I am working on. Scooch this over. All right, I need to use my glue stick or whatever other glue things that you have at home. It could be liquid glue, it could be tape if you'd like. What I want to do is first move to the side all of my little pieces. That's eyes, the mouth, any ears that you have, hair things, his neck or claws, shoulders, any of that. I move all that to the side and I now want to glue down his legs, his body, and his head. I do this by putting glue on the back of his legs, of his body, and his head. I don't want to glue right onto my paper because it's easy sometimes to glue too much and have a sticky mess after. If you glue right on the back of your paper, then it's a lot easier to keep your robot all together. And make sure I add glue on the back. I usually just make a few swishes and I outline my paper. So I made a circle of glue on the circle of this guy's head and I push it down. I want to wait about 3 or so seconds until I give it a test because that glue needs to set. It needs to really stick. So I kind of push down for a few moments and I lift back up. Now it's time for the eyes, the belly, the legs, and not the legs, I'm so sorry, the arms. All right, so I made sure I glued all my small pieces down. I pressed them down as much as I can, and now I've got my guy. He isn't too detailed though. If I'm looking at him next to my blueprints, like this, I can still see that he does look like that, but there's a few things I need to add in. I'm gonna take a black marker, and I'm going to add those details. Starting by drawing that screen on his belly with those lines, those buttons. And as you create today, don't worry if your blueprints don't look exactly like what you created today. I actually switched it up and I took his mouth and I made a little hat because I thought it was cute. Your blueprints are not going to be the same as your final project because it's an all-in-progress idea. We're constantly changing our ideas to make better ones. All right, so there is my robot. I made out of cut paper and I added some details with markers. Remember, friends at home, if you don't have colored paper and you can't cut anything out of boxes around the kitchen or any magazines like this, then you can just draw out your final robot on a nice big piece of paper with just pencil and marker. Either one is fine, but I'm looking forward to seeing your final robot creation. Happy creating, and I will see you guys later.